Hi, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to today's session on supporting children and families, maximizing benefits for young people with disabilities. Before we get into today's session, I would like to acknowledge that I'm joining you from Gatineau, the unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. I recognize and honor their deep connection to this land, as well as the lands where each of you are joining from. The map you see here reflects the many Indigenous nations whose territories span across what we now call Canada. We honor them all, past and present, and commit ourselves to learning from and respecting their histories and cultures. The Pathway to Benefits project is a free national initiative led by Mood Disorder Society of Canada to help Canadians with disabilities and their families access the financial supports they are entitled to but too often miss out on. Pathway to Benefits is funded by the Government of Canada's Disability Benefits Navigation Program. The views expressed here today are not necessarily representative of the views of the Government of Canada. So I'll briefly introduce myself and then allow both of my colleagues to do the same. My name is Diana Vince. I'm National Program Director here at MDSC. I'll pass it along now to Sherry.
Hi everyone, my name is Sherry Mayer and I'm the National Outreach and Navigation Coordinator for the Pathways to Benefit project.
You're muted, Ashley. It's okay.
Hi everyone, I'm Ashley and I'm the National Benefit Navigator here at Pathway to Benefits.
All right. So as we get started, please note that your microphones are muted and the session is being recorded. We invite you to use the Q&A function to submit any questions that you may have, and we'll address them towards the end of the session. Please do not disclose any personal health information when asking questions. The chat function is disabled. However, there are going to be some links that are going to be shared with you via the chat, so please close attention to those. A recording of this session will be shared with all registrants following the session and will also be available on our website at benefitspathway.ca. We'll quickly go over who is MDSC, what is Pathway to Benefits, and then we'll jump right into it about maximizing benefits for young people with disabilities. Mood Disorders Society of Canada is a national non-for-profit organization dedicated to improve the quality of life for people affected by mental health issues through advocacy, education, and support. We provide education and awareness about mood disorders to the public, healthcare professionals, and policymakers. We also offer resources for individuals living with mood disorders and their families, and we advocate for improved mental health services and policies across Canada. We also promote research and innovation related to mood disorders. I will now pass it along to Sherry to go into what is Pathway to Benefits.
Thank you, Diana. Pathway to Benefits is a recently launched project. We're about a year into the project and we're into our second fiscal year, and it's led by the Mood Disorder Society of Canada, supporting Canadians with disabilities and their families, applying for the DTC, the Disability Tax Credit, Canada Disability Benefit, and any other provincial territorial disability supports. The program is free. It is person-centered. Ashley is available to support you one-to-one with any of these benefit applications or any questions you have about disability supports. We also work with an online resource hub. So our website's very comprehensive. It has tools, it has resources broken up by province and territory. So it is very useful. We have peer and trained volunteers that support Ashley with the service content in terms of offering any support around questions that you might have in regards to benefits. And anything that they can't answer always comes back to Ashley or Diana and I. So we're all here as a team to support you. Organizational partnerships is something that I work primarily with. So I do outreach with organizations across Canada that have a like-minded how do I say that, shared value system with this work. So the more support that we have in the project, the better. And we do a lot of outreach to underserved communities. So if you are a person from an underserved community, we are happy to reach out to your community or any resources in your community and help support that process for you. So that's it for our services. I will pass the torch either back to Diana or Ashley to take over at this point.
Hello, everyone. So we're just going to start jumping right into the content of this and starting to focus on why it's important that we focus on young people with disabilities, especially when it comes to benefits. Although most of you might already have an idea because you're a caregiver or you have a child with a disability, you might also want to note that young people with disabilities in Canada face unique barriers that can impact educational attainment, employment opportunities, financial independence, and access to supports and services. And approximately 1 in 5 Canadian youth experience a disability or functional limitation, according to the Canadian Survey on Disability from Statistics Canada. There are multiple benefits and barriers when it comes to accessing disability benefits. The key barriers that come with accessing disability benefits come from financial barriers. It can be quite expensive to apply for disability benefits. If you look at the disability tax credit, for example, that I'll talk more in depth about later, it can be quite expensive getting doctors to fill out the forms. And there's a high cost related to disability related supports, let alone disability life with a disability. There's also limited income supports during transition to adulthood. And benefit systems are extremely complex, as many of you might be in the process of applying. There's also education and employment barriers where there's accessibility gaps in schools and workplaces. Youth with disabilities have lower employment rates, and they need stronger transition planning. And crucially, the Ulaski barrier or system navigation is that there are so many fragmented programs and systems that it's difficult to find the services and programs that your child or who you're caring for might need to fully thrive. There's limited awareness of available benefits. As I said before, the application system is complex and programs vary widely by province and territory, where one province might have a certain benefit, another doesn't. So it's especially crucial to acknowledge that there are big barriers and you're not alone in experiencing these barriers. There are multiple existing supports in Canada right now for young people with disabilities and even adults with disabilities. Some of these can go hand in hand. The first key example, I should say, of an existing support is the disability tax credit. It's a tax credit meant to give you taxes back to cover what you may need. There's also the Registered Disability Savings Plan, which comes with a grant and a bond to allow your income to decrease while increasing your net worth. We have a few webinars coming up the next couple months. I'll go more into detail later, but I just wanted to note that on the RDSP. There's also provincial disability support programs. And through K through university, there's student accessibility grants and accommodations that are there for young people with disabilities. And there are also multiple employment support programs for individuals with disabilities through various nonprofits or even the government themselves in a few provinces. The key here is for you to have the awareness and use and coordinate the benefits available for you and the young people that you might be caring for or that you know. Next slide, please. The first one we'll talk about is the disability tax credit, because this is one of the major ones that it's highly recommended that you receive. The disability tax credit is a federal non-refundable tax credit administered by the Canada Revenue Agency, CRA. It's designed for Canadians who have severe and prolonged impairment that markedly restricts one or more basic activities of daily living. Non-refundable means it reduces the amount of taxes you owe. If it reduces your taxes to zero, any leftover credit can be transferred to a spouse, common law partner, or supporting a family member. Even if the person with a disability doesn't file taxes, such as a young person with a disability or a child, someone supporting them financially, such as a parent or caregiver, may still be able to receive the benefit. The four key things that the CRA looks for when applying for the tax credit is that the impairment is severe and prolonged, lasting 12 months or more. It markedly restricts a basic activity, which essentially means it takes 3 times longer for the individual with a disability to complete daily tasks than somebody without a disability, or that person can't do it at all. It affects one of the basic activities listed on the slide. The disability tax credit is not just a tax credit, it's an access key to nearly every other federal disability benefit for children. When you look at it, you can get the RDSP if you have the disability tax credit. There's a disability benefit that you can get with the disability tax credit. In order to apply for this, you have to use Form T2201. Part B will be completed by your qualified practitioner. Approval is not automatic. Medical evidence has to show a marked restriction in daily living. The child disability benefit that flows through the Canada Child Benefit is only available once the DTC is approved. For this year, the maximum child disability benefit is approximately $3,173 a year, which is about $264 a month added in your pocket. It's like the Canada Disability Benefit, which I'll also talk about later if you haven't heard about it. It's the child disability benefit is income tested based on families' net income. Many families who believe that they earn too much still qualify, even if for a partial payment. And I recommend everybody apply for the benefit and let the CRA calculate. Although it can be rather expensive to have a doctor fill out forms, there are other options. The credit can also be backdated for retroactive for approximately 10 years, which can lead to a rather large tax return or a back payment in benefits. So it's crucial if you're eligible to look into it or call us and we can definitely help you with that. Let's go into who can apply for the DTC in a little bit more of a detail. The most important thing to know about this is that the DTC isn't a list of conditions. If your practitioner puts conditions as the reason or your diagnosis, the CRA does not necessarily know about it. It's all about the impact on daily functioning. You can have MS, cerebral palsy, severe arthritis, limb loss, chronic pain. These can all qualify. Mental health conditions, even in teens or younger, can apply, like depression, bipolar, autism spectrum, acquired brain injury, Down syndrome. These can qualify too under the mental conditions criteria, sensory impairments, and chronic illness requiring life-sustaining therapy. And both children and adults and seniors are also potentially eligible in case anybody along the whole range of life. The key message is this: just because you either think you have your diagnosis is obvious, or if you just have a diagnosis, it doesn't mean you automatically qualify. And just because you've been denied, it doesn't mean that you don't qualify. The application has to capture the functional limitations in the right language. The CRA cares more about impact than diagnosis, and it is crucial to understand that. That does not mean the diagnosis does not add to it or help, but they really do look at the difficulty doing life sustaining tasks. We can go to the next slide, please. Perfect. Going on about the disability tax credit, it's crucial to also understand who can certify the tax credit because there's only a small number of practitioners that are able to do it. This is a quick reference table, but it's important. The CRA specifies who can certify what type of impairment. Using the wrong type of doctor can result in an automatic denial. That does not mean if you need to appeal, you can't use other doctors as supplementary, but it is crucial to understand that essentially, your family doctor is the best person in most cases if you're doing cumulative effects. Otherwise, use a specialist, such as optometrist, audiologist, occupational therapist, speech language pathologist, depending on what you're applying for. If you're not sure whether the right professional completed your form, you can call us or you can call the Canada Revenue Agency and ask. We can tell you what you need and what your next steps are. We can go to the next slide. Okay, everybody. Now we're on the fun part, the Registered Disability Savings Plan. The RDSP is a federal savings program designed to support the long-term security of Canadians with disabilities, to help Canadians with disabilities save for the future. The eligibility is simple. You can open it if you have a child born with a disability, you can open it almost immediately if you have the disability tax credit. Otherwise, open it ASAP because the government will give you grants and loans, not loans, grants and bonds for just putting money in. They'll match it up to a certain amount. So really, by not having it, you're losing money, especially in the future. We have a couple of webinars coming up the next couple of months, and we'll talk a bit more about that later, but I just wanted to point that out now. And the long-term growth in the RDSP is something that you can't remake once you've lost it. So it's something that you should start as soon as possible after having the disability tax credit. Now, who can open an RDSP? Anybody under 18 needs a parent to open it or a guardian, but it can be opened for a beneficiary under 60. The beneficiary must have a valid SIN and live in Canada, and must also have the disability tax credit approved, as I mentioned before. And the plan holder can be opened by the beneficiary, which is the person with the disability, if they're over the age of majority in your province, parent, guardian, or a legal representative. And families and individuals, anybody can contribute to the RDSP over time, and it is tax-free growth where you will not have to pay tax on any investments made in the account. Next slide, please. How the RDSP grows. The government will give grants and bonds, and then the family and friends can contribute up to a lifetime limit. There's the Canada Disability Savings Grant, where the government matches contributions based on income. And there's the bond, where if you are low income, you're losing money if you don't apply for the DTC and get an RDSP because you will receive these bonds without even contributing. That is approximately $2,000 to $3,000 a year that you are losing in this case by not having an RDSP if you already have a disability tax credit. And you can also have it for your child or anyone under 18, and once they turn 18, they can become the beneficiary, and you can still put money in there. There's no downside to having it other than the disability tax credit application, which, if you have the right supports, is not difficult, but sometimes it can be especially difficult. But for more information on the RDSP, we have two upcoming webinars, as I've been teasing the whole time. The first is June 12th, which is all about the RDSP and what it is and going more in depth about it. If you're curious after hearing about this, we have an expert coming in to talk about it and how to qualify. And then July 7th, we have it about building the better future with the RDSP and the benefits of having one from our partner. And I highly recommend, if you're more interested in the RDSP, to register and either come on out or watch it on our webinar page after, because there will be some great information and it'll be very much more in depth due to having the experts come in and talk about it. Next, we're going to be talking about the Canada Child Benefit, which is a tax-free monthly payment that helps eligible families with the cost of raising children under 18. This is available to anybody with children. This income is tax-free, and the payments are monthly from the CRA. It's income adjusted and adjusted based on how many children you have. The more children you have, the more child benefit you have. It's based per child, but you do get more for having multiple children. And while the Canada Child Benefit in most cases goes to the parent or caregiver, it can support eligible children and youth under 18 in many cases. Next, we're going to talk about the Child Disability Benefit. This is also tied to the disability tax credit and tied to the Canada Disability Benefit. Yes, both are CDB. That can get very confusing, but the Child Disability Benefit has similar requirements. The child must qualify for and have the disability tax credit. And then families that receive the Canada Child Benefit will receive the Canada Disability Benefit automatically once approved for the DTC. So if your child has a disability, you get the disability tax credit, you'll automatically get this benefit. And this is also a monthly financial support with the CCB, and it is also tax-free and not considered taxable income. Next, we're going to talk about what benefits are available to caregivers. There are multiple benefits available to caregivers. It very much does depend on your province. Some provinces, such as Quebec, have specific caregiver credits available that you can apply for, or provinces might have other programs and benefits available. But focusing federally, there are two real benefits available to everybody in Canada. The first being the Canada Caregiver Credit, the CCC. That is available to caregivers of a spouse, common law partner, children, grandparents, parents, siblings, aunts and uncles, nieces and nephews with a disability. For that, you fill out Schedule 5 of your tax return. Just keep a medical note or DTC approval for 7 years much like your other taxes. You apply through for EI, you can also apply for caregiver benefits, which will look at your income, and you will receive up to 50% of your income for caregiving. And the tax credit will reduce taxes owed on your income tax. Next slide, please. The Canada Disability Benefit, that is a big thing right now. It launched in June of 2025, and it is a monthly payment for any individual with a disability that has the disability tax credit below a certain income range. Once you hit a certain income, the benefit will start to get clawed back. It has an easy application. Once you have the DTC, you go online, or we can mail you forms, etc., or go to your local Service Canada, and you can supply your income in the application, and the government will assess your information. It's very simple and based on your previous year's tax return. The income exemption is up to $10,210 of working income will be exempt when calculating your benefit. If you have a spouse or common law partner, up to $14,294 of working income will be exempt. There's multiple people who the Canada Disability Benefit is designed to help. This Canada Disability Benefit is primarily designed for working age adults with disabilities. Current federal information indicates that eligibility is for people 18 to 64. Younger than 18 is the Canada Child Disability Benefit. So many different CDBs here. But all this information will be online, and you can always call us for more specific questions. To get the Canada Disability Benefit, it is a great transition benefit for an individual once they turn 18. As long as they have the disability tax credit, meet that income related criteria, and they have filed their taxes. While there's not a separate youth stream of the Canada Disability Benefit for teens and younger children, it's crucial for youth transitioning into adulthood. And early awareness of this allows for financial planning and knowledge of the DTC application, transition supports, and RDSP enrollment. Next slide, please. When it comes to education benefits on the federal side, there are multiple different ways that you can get education benefits as either a child going into university or as a university student. The Canada Learning Bond helps low-income families save for a child's education in the Registered Education Savings Plan. It can provide an initial amount of yearly additions, even if the family does not contribute money of their own to the RESP. The Federal Education Savings Plan explains that it's part of the registered savings system and is aimed at improving access to post-secondary opportunities. It's especially helpful to families who want to build a future education fund without needing large upfront savings. The grant, however, matches RESP contributions to eligible children. The grant is generally 20% of annual contributions up to a yearly maximum, and there's a lifetime cap per child. Together with the Canada Learning Bond, it can make education much more affordable. For more information on the RESP, I recommend talking to either your bank or a financial advisor that you trust, because we do not provide financial advice. Students with disabilities can also apply for provincial and territorial student aids and be assessed for federal disability grants at the same time. Many provinces, when it comes to student loans and grants, have disability streams that will allow individuals with disabilities to have more access to funds that you're able to get technology or accessible items that you might need in university. One of these is the Canada Student Grant for students with permanent disabilities, which is available each year of study. And the Canada Student Grant for services and equipment can help pay for disability-related education costs, including tutoring, computers, and anything under the sun that an individual might need. In some provinces, there are additional disability bursaries or grants that may also be available through the Provincial Student Aid Office or by contacting the University Accessibility Office. The Canada Student Grant for students with permanent disabilities provides up to $2,800 per year, pending government approval through the end of the 2026 to 2027 school year. It is available to eligible students for each year of their study while they continue to qualify. This grant can also replace or reduce the need for student loans. The student grant for services and equipment can provide up to $20,000 per school year. It is intended to cover disability-related education costs such as assistive technologies, interpreters, tutoring, and similar supports. This grant is especially important when the student needs accommodation beyond typical classroom supports. It can be used together with other grants and financial aid programs to help students with disabilities achieve higher education, whether that's college, university, or otherwise. There are three key strategies when maximizing disability benefits. The first is increasing your awareness and learning about disability benefits and early access when it comes to benefits such as the Canada Child Benefit, the Child Disability Benefit, and the RDSP. This includes simplifying your information, outreaching to us or through schools, your doctor, and community organizations, and supporting early enrollment in these benefit programs. By doing this, you also streamline navigation, reducing administrative burden on yourself and the person you're helping, and improving accessibility of these benefits. And you're strengthening your child or who you're caring for, you're strengthening their transition, supporting movement from school to work to higher education, expanding mentorship and skills development and building their world around it and improving their transition planning before the age of 18. Because especially for children with disabilities, once they turn 18, it can be a very difficult transition from childhood to adulthood. And by utilizing these benefits and accounts, you're building on their foundation to allow for a wider world around them. And if we go to the next slide, I have a little bit of a example timeline. Supposing that you find out your child has a disability from birth and what you can do. From birth to age 18, you can apply for the Canada Child Benefit. And that is regardless of having a disability or not. But if your child has a disability, you can apply for the disability tax credit. And once that is approved, check for the child disability benefit and get the extra monthly payments. And then during childhood, on the next slide, you can open a RESP and learn about the Canada Learning Bonds and Grants and open an RDSP for future disability-related costs. During teen years, you can plan for their school transition and identify supports such as the Canada Disability Benefit or available grants and bonds federally and provincially for post-secondary. And in post-secondary, apply for the disability grants, even if your student doesn't think they'll need them. Get the extra grants and get the services and equipment funding if eligible. This includes tutors and interpreters, anything your post-secondary student will need to thrive. So it's very crucial that they apply for this if they're eligible and have a documented disability. And as we end this and go to the next, we I'll talk a little bit about pathway to benefits and how we can help with this connection. At Pathway to Benefits, we try to go beyond information. We focus on connection, understanding, and guidance. We offer personalized benefits navigation support, guidance through the application process, and available resources specifically for your situation. We focus on personalized support rather than the overarching support you might receive here. There's support from individuals with lived experience through our volunteers and through our team here. We try to have a relatable and youth-friendly approach, giving information and helping navigate the complex systems of in anybody's life. And we help with confidence so that you can receive the benefits that people often miss out on. This matters because young people will respond more positively to speaking to somebody who understands their experiences, can relate to their challenges, and provide support in a compassionate and approachable way. And through this, we can also give the guidance and help build a financial future or even just assistance now. At Pathway to Benefits, the focus is on accessibility, connection, understanding, and empowerment. We combine accessible tools such as our website and our contact methods, which include texting, calling, chat, and email. We combine that with lived experience support to aim to help young people with disabilities navigate the services with greater confidence and independence. And as we finish today, I am pleased to move on to the Q&A here. And I see we already have quite a few Q&As. So I would be pleased if my colleague Sherry could help read us some of these
Yeah,
questions.
sure, Ashley, no problem. So we'll start with the first question. How would you apply, or is there a website you can go to? And I'm assuming that's for the DTC, but maybe Ashley might want to clarify that.
Yeah, so for any of the benefits that I talked about today, you would go to the CRA or Service Canada. The disability tax credit, we have copies of the application if you need it in an alternate format or mailed. The government will also do the same thing, and we have information both on our website and on Government of Canada websites for the disability tax credit, the RDSP. All of this can be found online on our website and any government website. Or if you'd like to have a one-on-one conversation on how to apply, you can always text, call, chat, and we can help you out however we can to get you these benefits. But most benefits have a online application or a paper, and if you contact the government, they will also give you it in alternate formats, and we'd also be very pleased to help you.
Very good. Okay, the second is for the registered disability savings plan, you have to be approved for the DTC. I think that's a
Ye-
question. Mhm.
Yes, for the registered disability savings plan, you have to have the disability tax credit. That is the main requirement. And as I mentioned earlier, we have a couple of webinars coming up going in more detail because I am not a financial advisor. and we have people who can give a little bit more information and they're qualified to do so. And we can send at least the next link into the chat and feel free to either call us or hop on to the next webinar, same time, different date, and we can help you out there.
Can you send the link to register for the upcoming webinars?
It's in the chat.
Yes.
Perfect.
And
Thank you
there's
so
also
much.
some contact information that was just shared in the chat as well, our number and our email.
Yes.
Does your team offer support for any healthcare or community care support to understand these benefit programs?
Yes, we do. We will help anybody understand the benefits available, the application process, and answer any questions. We're happy to do so. It is our service is not just for people applying, it's for anybody that has any questions on what somebody might be eligible for or any general questions. We're pleased to offer that support, and we're just contact us and we are pleased to help you out in any way we can.
If we contributed to an RESP and our child was given the DTC in the meantime, can we apply retroactively for the Canada Savings Grant?
So the RESP is separate from the RDSP. They'd be two separate accounts. The RESP is made for education savings, where the disability savings plan is made for disability savings. And generally, I believe, um, and like I said, our webinars will cover this in a bit more detail, and it might be good to ask it there. But I believe when it comes to the RDSP, it's expected that the money sits and grows until the age of about 60 to cover disability related costs as they age out of the workforce and retire. However, like I mentioned before, our next two webinars will cover this, and I'm sure that even if you skip next month, the one after on the RDSP will cover a lot of that information, and our partners and our guests will be happy to answer that question as individuals tightly related to the RDSP.
Hey, can a psychiatrist complete the medical portion of a DTC app?
It depends on what basic activity category you're applying for. The psychiatrist can add extra information if you are appealing, but for mental functions for everyday life, a psychologist, medical doctor, or nurse practitioner has to be the medical professional. A psychiatrist will, if they complete Part B, will lead to an automatic denial, as harsh as that sounds. So it's crucial to get a medical doctor, which is a family doctor, psychologist, or a nurse practitioner to fill out Part B if that is the category you're applying, is the mental functions for everyday life. And if you have any other questions about that, I'd also you can also contact us, and I'd be happy to go in a bit more detail on having more information to answer your question.
I have another one here. Where would I call? I do have a few questions. I see our phone numbers in the chat. So,
Yes.
our last question, are there any different programs for youth aging out of foster care, or are they the same?
There are multiple different programs for youth aging out of foster care. I focused on federal programs today because provincial programs can get very confusing, and we have people from all over Canada, and I wanted to focus on federal. But when it comes to aging out of foster care, there are a lot of provincial benefits depending on the province that you're in that they can receive, whether or not they are going to university or not. So it feel free to give us a call or email or text or chat, and I'd be happy to discuss specifics.
Okay. I do not see any remaining questions. Thank you so much, Ashley, for a nice and comprehensive session as usual. And we'd like to thank all of you for joining us today as well. A recording of the session will be shared with all registrants within the next week or so. There's a link in the chat for feedback. We'd always love to hear from you. I've included a link in the chat for our next session, which will be on the introduction to the Registered Disability Savings Plan. This will take place on June 12th, and our guest speaker is joining us directly from the Canada Disability Savings Program, Jennifer Soucy. So once again, I know that Ashley did repeat a few times. Please do not hesitate to contact us. It is 1-888-975-9990. You can visit our website, benefitspathway.ca, or email us at info@benefitspathway.ca. So once again, thank you so much to both of my colleagues for today's session. And thanks to all of you for joining us. And we hope to see you next time on June 12th. Thanks, everyone.